Mixed attackers are a rare class of offensive Pokemon that can use both of their offensive stats on the same moveset. Here are the top 10 most proficient mixed attackers in competitive singles, in my personal opinion. I'm going to be talking about Pokemon around the OU power level, because in the Ubers tier there are way too many broken mixed attackers that if I did include them, they would dominate the list too much. I hope that's okay, folks. At number 10 on the list, I have Salamence, who is one of the most classic mixed attackers of all time. Salamence was introduced in Gen 3, where it is a top-tier individual in OU. And many of its sets are purely physical due to its high physical attack stat, but the most popular Salamence set is actually a mixed attacking Salamence in this generation, because it has a high physical and special attack stat and a fantastic offensive move pool with various options on both sides of the attacking spectrum. Of all the mixed attackers in Gen 3, Salamence is by far the most popular and the most successful. Salamence is excellent at threatening some of the most common defensive Pokemon in the game. Fire Blast is excellent against Skarmory, Metagross, Celebi, Forretress, and more. Brick Break is great against Blissey and Tyranitar and Snorlax. Dragon Claw is actually a special attack in Gen 3, because this was before the physical special split, and this is an amazing option on Salamence. Amazing neutral damage from this, and a fantastic mid-ground attack in many situations, and the most common final move set on mixed Salamence is Hidden Power Grass to hit water types like Suicune, Melodic, and of course Swampert, who suffers greatly from being hit by grass type attacks. Salamence is a legend in Gen 3, and the quintessential mixed attacker, I would say. Beyond these options, mixed attacking sets can run some more fringe choices like Hydro Pump, which is a cool choice to hit fellas like Claydol and the fire types, Charizard and Moltres, as well as be a nice middle ground that hits both Tyranitar and does chip damage to Gengar, where Brick Break would hit Tyranitar but not Gengar, while Hydro Pump at least hits both. And that's quite propitious. Also, Rock Slide is a considerable option that hits flying types like Zapdos, ×4, super effective against the Moltres and Charizards of the world, and also has the flinch chance, which can bail you out of a bad situation if you're a absolute lucker. I think it also helps that Salamence has great traits outside of its offensive prowess. Dragon Flying is a pretty nice typing in Gen 3, a lot of entry points against fighting types, and flying typing makes you immune to spikes, which is incredibly useful so you don't get chipped down over the course of a game. Plus you have the ability Intimidate, which lowers the attack of the opponent by 1 stage. This gives you even more entry points. It's like a bit more bulk. You take less damage against physical attackers on switch in. It always helps when your offensive Pokemon can actually hit the field nicely and check things as well as dealing damage. That always helps a Pokemon's consistency, and that's certainly what Salamence does in Gen 3. In Generation 4, things would get even more insane for Salamence, as this was the peak of its entire career. Dragon types were massively buffed in this generation, with the physical special split giving them access to physical Dragon Claw and Outrage for the first time, as well as the new move Draco Meteor being added, which is an incredible Dragon type special attack with 140 power. This new option, as well as access to the Life Orb item for more relentless offensive firepower, pushed Salamence so far that it's actually banned in Gen 4. The only generation where Salamence is banned from being used. The power increase for it was just a bit much for the time. So it might sound crazy that I've got Salamence at number 10 on the list. I'm giving Salamence a bit of legacy respect here because of how amazing it was in Gen 3 and 4 as a mixed attacker. But after that, it started to decline and fall behind the competition. In Gen 5, Dragonite surpassed Salamence as a general dragon flying type offensive Pokemon. And when Salamence was used in Gen 5 OU, it wasn't really for its mixed attacking sets like before, which didn't feel quite as widely threatening as they used to. Now it leaned more into an aggressive physical attacking angle with its new ability Moxie, which allows it to ramp attack boosts every time it gets a KO. And with that, you could run Choice Scarf Salamence and use it as a late game cleaner. That was the most popular Salamence set in Gen 5, no longer being used primarily for its mixed attacking options. And after Gen 5, it wasn't even ranked OU anymore ever again, pushed out of the tier by superior dragon types like Dragonite and others. So despite Salamence being such an excellent example of a mixed attacker in the early generations, I don't know if that reputation really holds up as the series goes on, but I would certainly give Salamence respect for being the blueprint for mixed attackers to come in many ways. The dragon is an auspicious creature that is said to bring good fortune to all that look upon it, As a result of watching the Salamence section of this video, folks, you have been granted the Dragon's Blessing, and I hope you use it well. Up next, we have Como-O, the Dragon Fighting type pseudo-legendary from Gen 7, and this Pokemon was designed clearly as a mixed attacker. Its physical and special attacking stats are both usable, 110 physical attack, 100 special attack. They're not incredibly high or anything, but they're good enough to use. And Como-O also has a good combination of bulk and offense. It's a well-rounded Pokemon, and that helps it offensively, the fact that it can actually switch in, tank some hits, use its nice resistances and such. That's always very good. And Como-O's greatest strength is its incredibly versatile move pool. This guy has so many different options when it comes to physical and special attacks, as well as ways to boost both of its offensive stats at once. In Gen 8, Como-O was granted the incredible boosting move Clangorous Soul, which boosts all of its stats by +1, so it boosts attack and special attack and speed. The drawback is that you take 33% of your HP and damage, but this is a great way to boost both offenses and allows it to be a boost sweeper that uses physical and special attacks. Como-O has a signature dragon type attack called Clanging Scales, which is amazing. It has 110 power, 100 accuracy with the fairly minimal drawback of just lowering your defense by a single stage. This is a great option, a accurate and powerful dragon type attack on the special side with a pretty minimal drawback compared to similar alternatives like Draco Meteor. Along with this, you have great special attacking options like Flamethrower and Flash Cannon and Stab Focus Blast. That's inaccurate, but it does hit very hard when you do land it, so that can be worth it. And on the physical side, you have Close Combat, Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Drain Punch for bulkier sets, Ice Punch for coverage, Poison Jab, and Iron Head to hit fairy types which you're weak against, Rock Slide. The options are truly through the roof. Also in Gen 7, Como-O had the signature Z move via the Commonium Z that did a big, massive dragon-type nuke and then boosted all your stats by 1 afterwards, which is also an outstanding way to be a proficient mixed attacker, just to hit for 1,000,000 damage and then boost all your stats. That'll certainly do it. So Como-O is a pretty excellent mixed attacker in its design, and it's pretty effective at being a mixed attacker in the generations where it is a viable choice. The reason it's lower on the list, though, is because its viability is a little bit mixed, funnily enough. In Gen 7, it's great because of the incredibly powerful Z move, and it's OU ranked there, but it's only OU ranked in that single generation. In later generations, it's more of a fringe choice that is seen sometimes, but not really at the forefront of any metagame. It's good and it has a place on the right team, but it's a bit harder to use. Being so weak to fairy types is quite a problem in modern metagames, where fairy is a type that feels like it just gets better and better every generation with great new fairy types added. Como-O is kind of struggling there. But there's no denying that this is a very effective and well-designed mixed attacker. And this is actually my personal favorite pseudo-legendary design. I think it's awesome all around, great visual, incredible toolkit, love the dragon fighting typing, love everything about it, I just think it's awesome. And its abilities are cool too, bulletproof and soundproof, both have incredible application. I think this is a triumph of Pokemon design, it's just beautiful all around. Up next we have the iconic Greninja, one that has some of the coolest mixed attacking sets of all time in my opinion. Greninja, of course, debuted in Gen 6, where it was actually so powerful that it was banned. Greninja has the ability Protean, which is incredibly good. It allows it to change its type every single time it uses a move. Greninja is fast with 122 base speed, and its offensive stats are usably good with this ability. They're not through the roof or anything, but this ability is effectively an incredible buff to coverage options, since every single time you use a move you change into that type and you gain same type attack bonus on that type as well, which is a 1.5x damage increase. Pretty incredible. And this lends itself well to mixed attacking sets, since your damage increase is mostly coming from the same type attack boost of Protean. You can afford to run mixed attacking options. In Gen 7 OU, Protean sets have things like Gunk Shot, which is a physical poison type attack, and this is great for hitting all the fairy types of Gen 7 OU like Clefable and Tapu Lele and Tapu Koko, etc. Gunk Shot will get one of my favorite sets used to be Choice Scarf Gunk Shot to hit Tapu Koko unexpectedly. Some players also ran Z Dig as an interesting physical option. Dig is a ground type attack with 80 power that is pretty bad usually. It's a charge move, so you have to dig underground first and strike on turn 2. And what kind of sucks about it is that while you're underground, you can be hit by Earthquake, and Earthquake's a common move, so Dig usually not used, but with a Z Stone, you can boost the power of Dig and then utilize it immediately. It just becomes a ground type Z move. And with that, boosted by Protean as well, Greninja can actually get ground coverage. It gets it once per game, but it's still quite good in the right circumstance. It allows Greninja to get unexpected one-hits against things like Megaena that would otherwise wall it. And then, of course, its much more famous special attacking options are still just as usable here, like Ice Beam, Dark Pulse, Water type attacks. It has a great special attacking move pool, and with Protean, it can also use its physical attacks very well, too. Unfortunately, though, I'm not ranking Greninja that high here, despite having an incredible showing in Gen 6 and 7. Part of its mixed attacking prowess did rely on having Z-Stones available. Not all mixed attacking sets needed them, but it's part of the reason mixed attacking Greninja was so good here was because of its access to Z-Stones. And in Gen 9, I think mixed attacking Greninja is unfortunately kind of dead, because Protean was so severely nerfed. In Gen 9, Protean now only changes your type once per switch in, and you have to switch out and back in to reactivate the Protean effect. It will no longer switch your type every single time you use a move. While on the field, it works once per switch in only, which is a severe nerf. And I think that mixed attacking Greninja sets can't really function after that nerf. The restrictive nature of this nerf kind of makes it awkward to run the mixed attacking sets that were so great in Gen 6 and 7. But I would give Greninja respect for being an elite level mixed attacker in prior generations. And it's not really Greninja's fault it got nerfed so that Terra seemed more cool, because Greninja was able to change its type at a whim before Terra existed. And Greninja, if it existed in Gen 9, would make Terra look a little bit lame, since it doesn't even need to become a gemstone creature to change its type all the time. That would overshadow the new generational mechanic, and so they have gone and nerfed Greninja for being excellent, basically, which is, I think, a little bit despicable, but who am I to question Game Freak and their design decisions? I would never do so. Game Freak is always correct, and they were very good to nerf Greninja. It was very good of them. Up next we have Aegislash, who is one of the most unique Pokemon ever made, with a cool mechanic attached to it. Aegislash is a Steel Ghost type, who begins in its Shield form, which has excellent defensive stats and very low offensive stats. But then whenever you use an attack, your ability's stance change will activate and you will become the Sword form, flipping those defenses and offenses, now giving you a massive attack and special attack stat and low defenses. When you use the move King's Shield, which is a protective move, you will change back into the Shield form. So Aegislash is a rare Pokemon that can switch between defense and offense at will. And of course, in the offensive form, it is an amazing mixed attacker. Its attacking stats are evenly matched. In Gen 6, they are 150 in each. And in fact, Aegislash was so powerful in Gens 6 and 7 that it had to be banned to Ubers. It was that effective at what it did, with such set versatility that it was difficult to actually predict. When it comes to special attacking options, you have straightforwardly good stat moves like Shadow Ball and Flash Cannon. And that's pretty much all you need there. That's enough to be functional on the special side, to be honest. Ghost is a very self-sufficient type, and Steel is a pretty nice complementary type to hit other things that Ghost can't hit, at least neutrally, and also to hit Fairy types for good damage. On the physical side, your options are a bit more varied. You have such options as Shadow Sneak for Ghost Priority, Shadow Claw, Sacred Sword, Iron Head. Yes, its move pool may not be as excellent as some other mixed attackers in the series, but it's good enough with these elite stats. It has the options it needs to be an absolute menace. The main reason this guy is not even higher than it is because in Gen 8, Aegislash was of course nerfed quite significantly, losing 10 points in its defenses in the base shield form, and therefore also having less offenses in the sword form as a result of that. This significant nerf, as well as more stuff in the metagame that threatened or made Aegislash's life difficult, like the rise of Weavile and the new introduction of Dragapult, were enough for Aegislash to fall down. It's not Ubers ranked in Gen 8, and in fact, it's not even OU ranked. Did not have enough usage in OU to be ranked in the tier. It's a difficult Pokemon to evaluate on a list like this, to be honest, considering its incredible peaks and then stark drop off as the result of a direct nerf, and also the metagame around it changing significantly. But I think putting it about here makes sense to me. I think it's above Greninja, personally. Aegislash is not in Gen 9, but I believe that if it was, it would be more viable in Gen 9 than Greninja presently is. Greninja's nerfs were just much more severe. Both of its abilities got nerfed, and it doesn't feel like a functional Pokemon anymore. Whereas Aegislash, I think, would still have some stuff. It has the excellent Steel Ghost typing, a nice move pool, the amazing ability. Yes, it's going to be competing with Goldengo, but I still think it would be better off and certainly more functional as a mixed attacker. At least it also received the new option of Close Combat in Gen 8, which was a big buff for it, to offset a little bit the nerf. Not enough, but this new option is certainly appreciated in the wake of disaster. Next we have Tyranitar, the GOAT of competitive singles himself, and part of the reason for his excellence is his proficiency as a mixed attacker throughout the years. Tyranitar is a Pokemon that can do many different things, but one of those things is operate as a mixed attacker. Tyranitar's physical attack is the far higher stat at 134, but its special attack is 95, which is usable enough considering Tyranitar's moveset options. Tyranitar has key options like Ice Beam, which is a beautiful one to hit things like Landorus, Therian, and Gliscor and Garchomp that actually threaten Tyranitar massively. Tyranitar also has Fire Blast and Flamethrower, which are very good options against Steel types, which are popular physical walls. Pokemon like Ferrothorn and Skarmory. Tyranitar also has Thunderbolt and Thunder, which are good at threatening water types, which also match up well against Tyranitar. So these mixed attacking options and special options are good at targeting specific Tyranitar switch-ins and punishing them. The peak of Tyranitar's excellence as a mixed attacker was in its debut game of Gen 3, where Mixed Tyranitar is one of its most popular and effective sets. It is able to use Hidden Power Grass to get one over on its most popular switch-in, Swampert, and that's very powerful. Ice Beam can hit Flygon, Fire Blast can hit Forretress and Skarmory and such, and then it has Brick Break to hit enemy Tyranitar and Blissey and Snorlax. Mixed Tyranitar is famous for being able to threaten pretty much the whole metagame by itself in Generation 3. And this is the most straight-up mixed attacking set it ever used. In later generations, it runs more of like a bulky attacker support set. In Gen 5, it would run Physical, Pursuit, and Crunch to answer things like Latios and Alakazam, and then possibly with a mixed attacking flex option like Fire Blast or Ice Beam to just threaten common defensive Pokemon it will probably see frequently. I cannot in good conscience rate Tyranitar that highly as a mixed attacker, though. It's certainly a viable and proficient mixed attacker in many generations, but its role as a mixed attacker declined over time. In Gen 6 and 7, you would see special attacking options used occasionally, but not nearly as much as they used to be. And in Gen 8, with the loss of Pursuit, it leaned far more into an offensive breaker role, with Choice Band Tyranitar now being the most popular set on it, and I don't think special attacking options were that common at all on Tyranitar in Gen 8, unfortunately. In Gen 9, Tyranitar has also fallen from OU, and is not what it once was. It almost made it. Gen 9 tiering is now frozen, so it can't make it back, but it was OU ranked for a good time. It fell down, and will never be returning, but we can say, though, that part of the reason Tyranitar has much viability in Gen 9 is because of that mixed attacking move pool. Ice Beam is actually a pretty nice option to threaten the ever-present Gliscor and do good chip to things like Great Tusk. In general, though, although Tyranitar's mixed options are pretty impressive, it's not the main reason to use the Pokemon usually. It's usually there for its sand setting and things like Pursuit and Knockoff. Also, of course, its powerful physical attacks utility like Stealth Rock and Thunder Wave. Special attacks are a good part of it, but they're usually like a flex option that are not the main reason you're using the Pokemon. They're more of an added benefit. And Tyranitar is, of course, quite slow, not exactly an offensive powerhouse that's threatening everything with mixed options as soon as it hits the field. Next here I have Garchomp, and Garchomp is kind of an interesting case, because I don't think Garchomp was designed as a mixed attacker. Garchomp's much higher offensive stat is its physical attack, which is 130, and its special attack is only base 80, which is quite a low offensive stat value for an OU Pokemon. And yet Garchomp is one of the most consistently seen mixed attackers in various different OU formats throughout the generations. Garchomp is a mixed attacker in spite of itself. Garchomp is well known as a competitive Pokemon staple with its very well-rounded stats and great combination of speed, relative bulk, and offensive firepower, as well as being a great stealth rock setter. The thing is that Garchomp's physical attacking movesets tend to invite in Pokemon that can pretty easily respond to it. Pokemon like Skarmory match up very well against Garchomp, as Garchomp's Dragon and Ground stab options will do very little to Skarmory, and none of its physical coverage threatens Skarmory very well at all. The same is true of Ferrothorn, Celesteela, etc. Garchomp might even invite in a physical check like a physically defensive Gliscor or a Landorus Therian, which intimidates the Garchomp and lowers the damage of its physical Dragon stab. So because Garchomp consistently invites in Pokemon like this, these are the Pokemon that answer Garchomp very well. For this reason, Garchomp is good at using mixed attacking sets purely because its mixed attacking options threaten exactly this kind of Pokemon, even though it doesn't have a very high special attack stat. An option like Fire Blast, boosted by a Life Orb and also offset by its high base power, will threaten a Pokemon like Skarmory significantly. Skarmory does not often invest in special defense. At 80 base special attack with the super effective damage and the Life Orb boost and all of that is enough to really frighten Skarmory. So just having this option to threaten such common switch-ins in turn bolsters the value of Earthquake. On this set, Garchomp is invested fully in special attack for maximum damage on its special moves, but even still, Garchomp's Earthquake, off the back of Garchomp's base attack alone, still gets the job done in many cases against special walls without much physical defense or anything weak to ground. So this will still be a very threatening option, and Garchomp's base attack is so high that it still deals considerable damage. But now the physical walls that would usually answer Garchomp easily are frightened of this Fire Blast, and the ones that are not weak to fire will get pretty destroyed by Draco Meteor, which also has enough to offset Garchomp's low special attack, given that it has stab damage on it at a very high base power of 130. Garchomp can also manage the drawback of Draco Meteor well. It doesn't matter too much if you lose to special attack when you have a physical attacking option that still deals good damage afterwards, so you can use Draco Meteor and not be immediately forced out. This drawback is very manageable on a mixed Garchomp. And so for this reason, even though Garchomp was clearly not designed really to be a mixed attacker, it thrives as a mixed attacker and is a very viable one in multiple generations, due to its mixed attacking options being so effective against its common answers. It's a Pokemon that invites in specific things and is then able to target those specific things with tools up its sleeve to do so. A very ingenious Pokemon. Mixed attacking Garchomp is of course not the only Garchomp set. Garchomp has many different sets, mostly physical leaning sets, but its mixed attacking set is very respectable. It's one of the most popular sets on it, and it's part of the reason it's a good Pokemon is because you have to respect this mixed attacking set. It's dangerous to just go to Ferrothorn against an unrevealed Garchomp, because they could have the Fire Blast. The fact that it could have Fire Blast is a big reason why a Garchomp is so good at achieving value. I would rank Garchomp even higher than this, but unfortunately in Gen 9 we know that Garchomp has fallen off in usage pretty significantly with more bulky ground type competition, largely outclassed by fellas like Great Tusk, Iron Treads, and a newly buffed Gliscor. And that's part of it, just declining viability in general, but Garchomp is still pretty good in OU, still commonly seen. But when you do see it, it's not really running its mixed sets anymore. They are not nearly as common as they used to be, and the more popular set is a tanky Garchomp set with its new option of Spikes, taking advantage of rough skin, and the shuffling option of Dragon Tail. That's now the more popular Garchomp set. And I think you could still make mixed Garchomp work in Gen 9 OU, but making it work is very different to it just being a very common and top tier set that you see all the time. The decline is clearly there, so Garchomp was an elite mixed attacker for many years, and that has unfortunately, I think, ended in Gen 9. Still worthy of immense respect though, and one of my favorite mixed attackers because I think it's a pretty fun example of a Pokemon adapting to the meta conditions around it and kind of defying its original design. Running a set that would look weird if you had no knowledge of the meta that it took place in, but in that context is very good. Up next, I've got an interesting one, which is Mega Diancie, the most proficient mixed attacking of the Mega evolutions. Mega Diancie is one of the strongest Megas in Gen 7 OU. It has many things going for it. It's got incredible stats, a high 110 speed, the same value in its defenses, and of course, absolutely elite mixed attacking stats with 160 in its attack and special attack. These are some of the strongest mixed attacking stats we've seen on any Pokemon. Mega Diancie also has the elite ability Magic Bounce, which is one of the strongest abilities in the game, bouncing back all status moves and having them affect the original user, also bouncing back hazards. This is one of the strongest abilities ever. Rock Fairy typing is also interesting. The rock part of it is not amazing. It opens up a lot of weaknesses, including at times for weakness to steel, but being a fairy type will certainly offset a lot of that because of how good fairy typing is. Now, what's interesting about Mega Diancie as a mixed attacker is that it doesn't actually have very many physical attacking options at all, which would seem to be a bad thing, but I would argue that it has the one option it really needs, which is an incredible physical rock stab attack called Diamond Storm, which is one of the strongest rock type attacks in the whole series. Diamond Storm has 100 power, 95 accuracy, and an incredible secondary effect, which offers a 50% chance to raise your defense by 1 on hit. This is an absolutely insane attack all around. It has the same power as Stone Edge, but is far more accurate with a way better secondary effect. Rock types everywhere would kill to have such a move, and Mega Diancie has it, so this is kind of the only physical attack you really need on this Pokemon. And this makes you thankful to be a rock type because it has stab damage on top, and rock is a pretty fantastic coverage type to have alongside fairy, because rock hits fire super effectively, and fire types usually resist fairy. Mega Diancie also happens to have earth power as a special attack to hit steel and poison types who also resist fairy. This combination of Moonblast and Earth Power will take Mega Diancie a long way single-handedly, has such a great special attack stat, and these are very complementary types, Fairy and Ground. But Diamond Storm, I think, is what brings it all together, as not only do you have beautiful rock coverage, which is relevant in many scenarios, but also a physical attacking option that makes great use of your massive 160 base attack stat to hit special walls. Having such a beautiful option to hit special walls makes Mega Diancie so much more of a threat. So despite only having one noteworthy physical attacking option, that one option is all you need. When your one physical attack is this good, that's enough to make you an amazing mixed attacker in my book. And Mega Diancie is certainly one of the strongest mixed attackers that OU has ever seen. It is an interesting one to evaluate though, because of course Mega Diancie does only exist in a single generation, but I think fundamentally this Pokemon has so much going for it that you could imagine it thriving in a world where they bring Megas back for whatever reason or any other context. I believe Mega Diancie is one of the top Pokemon in balanced Hackmons. That tells you something perhaps. And so Mega Diancie has my respect as one of the greatest mixed attackers in OU history. Now we arrive at the top 3. Number 3 on my list is the competitive superstar himself, Dragapult. Dragapult is a pseudo-legendary Pokemon introduced in Gen 8, and is one of the most successful and well-designed modern competitive Pokemon. Dragapult is fantastic, with its standout trait being its incredible 142 base speed, which is ludicrously fast, but also its great offenses considering that speed. Usually if something's this fast, it's kind of weak, but Dragapult has base 100 special attack and a great special attacking move pool, and a base 120 attack, which is a very good attack stat. Dragon Ghost typing is also very nice, providing you key resistances and immunities for opportunities to switch in and then start posing a threat. Now what's interesting about Dragapult's design is the fact that even though it has a higher physical attack stat, it also has a very limited physical attacking move pool. Its best physical attack available is Dragon Darts, which is a 50 power dragon type attack that hits twice. It's quite a good dragon type physical attack. But beyond this, the options are kind of limited. You have U-Turn, of course, great attack, but primarily used for the pivoting effect, not really for damage. Still nice to have some bug coverage, I suppose, but it's more of a pivoting move. Notably, Dragapult has no good Ghost Stab. Its best Ghost Stab option is Phantom Force, which is not fantastic because of the charge turn it requires. It's usable in some contexts, but not often seen. Then you got Psychic Fangs, which is psychic coverage, not an amazing attacking type to have, and then Sucker Punch for some priority, which feels unnecessary when you're so fast, and also Dark doesn't gain stab boost like Ghost does. So Dragapult is more known for its special attacking prowess. 100 special attack is workable enough when you're this fast, and Dragapult's special attacking move pool is far more vast, with Shadow Ball, which is good to go stab, Fire Blast, Draco Meteor, Thunderbolt. Pretty much enough coverage to function as a good special attacker. So it's kind of interesting to call it a mixed attacker when I've just described it as a Pokemon with very limited physical attacking options, but I would still rank Dragapult very highly as a mixed attacker, because its most popular set takes advantage of both of its offensive stats. It's this set right here, the Heavy Duty Boots, Hex, Dragon Darts, U-Turn, Pivoting set. This set is the most popular Dragapult set in Gen 9 OU. I think it's its best set, and part of the reason for that is because it uses Dragon Darts, its best physical option, Will-O-Wisp to inflict burn and permanently cripple enemy Pokemon, and then Hex, which deals double damage if the enemy is statist, synergizing well with Will-O-Wisp. And of course U-Turn for the excellent effect of pivoting, gaining information, and keeping momentum up. Just having a single good physical Dragon Stab option is enough for Dragapult to benefit from its high attack stat and to pose a threat to special walls, and it's part of the reason this set is so good, because nothing cleanly switches into it really. Special walls take quite a bit of damage from the Dragon Darts. Most things are going to be vulnerable to Will-O-Wisp, and the Hex Will-O-Wisp combo is going to do great damage to a massive portion of the metagame too. And if something does actually wall all of that, you just have a U-Turn, which allows you to pivot to something else that threatens whatever comes in or answers whatever comes in. This right here is one of the best and most reliable Pokemon sets in Gen 9 OU. It feels like it just does everything you could ever want. Getting a little bit of progress every single time it switches in. The boots making that even more consistent because it's not getting chipped down by hazards. It can keep coming in, clicking something great, and then freely pivoting out with its high speed with this convenient eject button if anything ever gets too frightening for it. It doesn't really matter if your options are limited. If you have one set that perfectly takes advantage of your offenses and does everything you could ever need, all you really need is this one good physical option to bring it all together. So for that reason, Dragapult is number 3 on my list of mixed attackers. Up next at number 2, I have Kyurem. Kyurem is an interesting Pokemon here because it wasn't always so amazing. Kyurem, when it released in Gen 5, in fact, was pretty average. There was a lot to like about it, don't get me wrong. It's a legendary Pokemon. It has excellent stats, a massive HP, and fantastic mixed attacking stats, 130 in both. Very, very good mixed attacking stats. But Kyurem suffered in Gen 5, partially because, while it is pretty fast, 95 speed is just below the base 100 threshold, and so it is threatened by a lot of common things. Kyurem is also a Dragon Ice type, which is unfortunate in a world dominated so heavily by Stealth Rock. It felt difficult to use Kyurem on most teams, as it would require support. It was threatened by a lot, it was just slower than a lot. And in Gen 5 it was also competing with its own Kyurem Black form, a different form of itself, which is generally the superior option, of course. And this was true for a long time. Kyurem was sort of in a mid-limbo. It wasn't that fantastic, despite seeming so good on the surface. That was until Gen 8, when Kyurem was buffed very significantly, with some key new options. One of these new options was Icicle Spear. Kyurem had always struggled to actually use its good physical attacking stat without a great physical attack to actually get any value out of it, but then when it got Icicle Spear in Gen 8, that changed. This was enough for Kyurem to finally have some way to use its great physical attack stat, and this was a pretty significant get for it, especially because it coincided with another new option on it, Dragon Dance. Dragon Dance is a great boosting move that increases your attack and speed by 1. So with Dragon Dance and Icicle Spear, Kyurem could now finally actually be frightening on the physical attacking side of things. And on the special side, Kyurem also got a buff in the form of Freeze Dry, a new Ice-type special attack with 70 power that has the key effect of being super effective against water. Freeze Dry is an amazing attack for this reason. Water types are usually resistant to ice, but you erase that resistance and replace it with a weakness, and that allows you to threaten so many more things. Kyurem was actually banned to Ubers in Gen 8. as a result of these buffs, and in Gen 9, it is now one of the top Pokemon in OU. Currently in the S- rank on the viability rankings, even higher than Dragapult. Yes, Kyurem is one of the top dogs of Gen 9 OU right now, and part of the reason for that is because it has become so great as a mixed attacker. It's sort of a similar situation to Dragapult, where its physical options are more limited. It's mostly just Icicle Spear, to be honest, but this really is enough to make Kyurem really scary on the physical side, especially because Ice is a great offensive type, and Gen 9 also introduced the Loaded Dice item, which is a buff to multi-hit moves, causing them to hit at least 4 out of 5 times, which is very good alongside Icicle Spear, significantly enhancing its damage output and the consistency of using it. This mixed Dragon Dance Kyurem set is incredible. Freeze Dry is able to threaten Dondozo with massive damage, so this is a rare Dragon Dance sweeper that can defeat Dondozo. That's usually unheard of. Earth Power also complements the Icicle Spear very well, plus it's a form of damage on the other side of the attacking spectrum. Kyurem is not quite as good as it was when Terra Blast was still in the game, because Terra Blast allows you to gain yet another physical coverage option of your choice, but it's still a very commendable Pokemon and a truly elite mixed attacker. The strength of mixed attackers is that they're not easy to answer defensively. Both physical and special walls are going to be frightened by them. So even if you have just a single physical option, much like in the case of Dragapult, for Kyurem that is more than enough to instill fear in the heart of your enemies and make them think twice about what they actually do in response to you. Kyurem is infamous for being so hard to switch in against because of all the different possible sets it can have, especially its mixed set, which threatens a wide array of the metagame. Some even think that Kyurem should have been banned a while ago. There was a suspect vote, and infamously the result of that suspect vote was that Kyurem did get banned temporarily. Then they found out that the vote was rigged by false accounts, and so they removed the votes that were falsified, and Kyurem remained in the tier and was unbanned. It was a whole fiasco. And so now we're stuck with Kyurem in Gen 9 OU for better or for worse. I think with the Terra Blast ban, Kyurem is now a little bit more manageable at the very least. And finally, at the top of my list, the greatest mixed attacker that OU has ever seen, in my personal opinion, the new Future Paradox form of Gardevoir and Gallade, Iron Valiant. This Pokemon has been one of the most defining offensive threats of Gen 9 OU, and it is known as a truly excellent mixed attacker. Iron Valiant has 130 physical attack, 120 special attack, and a great speed stat of 116. With the Quark Drive ability, you are able to consume a booster energy to boost that speed even further temporarily. And with this booster energy boost, you easily outrun just about the entire Gen 9 OU metagame. And Iron Valiant is noteworthy not only because of its great mixed attacking stats, both being quite high, but also because of its extraordinarily vast attacking move pool. Iron Valiant is a Pokemon that actually does have abundant options for special and physical attacks both. As a fairy fighting type, you have the straightforward combination of Moonblast as a special attack and Close Combat as a physical attack, and that alone is pretty outstanding. Stab options and mixed attacking options in one. But then there are your coverage options. Knockoff is the most common, as it's a dark type attack that complements both fairy and fighting very well, operates as item removal, and also physical and dark type coverage. There is also Shadow Sneak, which is a ghost type physical attack with priority. There is Thunderbolt, which is an electric type attack, which has a lot of beautiful application. A lot of things are weak to electric in Gen 9 OU. If you'd prefer a fighting type special attack, you have Aura Sphere, Energy Ball for grass type damage, Vacuum Wave is a special fighting type priority option. And on the physical side, we've mentioned Close Combat and Knockoff, where there is also Liquidation. I think I've seen that before. Water type option, Leaf Blade, Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Poison Jab. You get the gist, folks. Iron Valiant has everything it could ever want. It does lean towards this set with Moonblast, Close Combat, Knockoff, Encore. I think this is the most popular set on it. Encore being a great utility option that incapacitates a lot in the current metagame. But it's a versatile guy. You can run whatever coverage you like that happens to punish a bad matchup or fix a gap that your team has. It is one of the most versatile offensive Pokemon I've ever seen in any OU format, and one that thrives specifically as a mixed attacker and was clearly designed to be a mixed attacker. Now, technically, some of you may point out that yes, Kyurem is actually a higher ranked Pokemon on the viability rankings, but honestly, if there is a gap between Iron Valiant and Kyurem, it's debatable, right? The viability rankings aren't necessarily the word of law. Like, in my opinion, you could argue that Iron Valiant is actually a superior Pokemon to Kyurem, and they're at least similar in power level and influence. I would also say that Iron Valiant embodies being a mixed attacker much more. That is its primary purpose, and it's the reason it's so excellent. And that's probably the most powerful example we have seen in the whole series, at least for OU power level, of a mixed attacker. And so I feel very comfortable putting Iron Valiant at number 1 on my list here. I also happen to really enjoy Iron Valiant's presence in Gen 9 OU. I think it's a fun Pokemon to use and to build with. Many different ways to utilize it. I also think it's relatively balanced. There are many Pokemon that do answer it. It's a bit tough sometimes with it pulling out some surprise option that happens to destroy you, but it is at least quite frail and weak to the attacking options of common defensive Pokemon in the tier, so it doesn't feel too ridiculous or anything. It may catch you off guard on a single turn, but Iron Valiant has a limited time to exist. Booster Energy is a temporary boost. It's frail. So I think it feels okay, but some might disagree with me on that. Anyway, folks, that is my list of top 10 mixed attackers. Forgive me if you were expecting some Ubers level legendaries, which are formidable mixed attackers of their own, but honestly, Ubers has so many mixed attackers that I think that the legendaries would have taken up most of the top 10 list. If you like, I can do a separate video about Uber's level mixed attackers, because that's an interesting topic on its own. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one, everybody.